Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about adjustment factors, sometimes called adjustments or bonus points. There'll be heaps of links in the description, so if you want some more info, jump down in there and click on anything that looks like it will help you out. Okay, so what are adjustment factors? Adjustment factors are sometimes known as bonus points. They make you more competitive for university entry. So they effectively increase your selection rank or your ATAR. You should always be trying to do your best academically so that you can maximize your ATAR or your rank from your academic work, but adjustment factors can make you more competitive for uni entry on top of your selection rank, which is good to know. So here are a few quick facts. Adjustment factors don't change your ATAR or your selection rank. So if you get a 90 ATAR, and you're eligible for some adjustments, you're not going to see those when you get your ATAR. Adjustment factors are applied to your ATAR or your rank by the tertiary admissions centre who is assessing your application to uni. So in Queensland, that's QTAC. They're going to be applying adjustments to your existing rank or ATAR when they check to see if you're competitive for entry to uni. This video is about how adjustments work in Queensland. Things can be a bit different interstate, so always just double check, call the tertiary admission centres in other states, and also contact the universities for answers to your questions. So let's jump into the different types of adjustment factors and how different universities apply their adjustment factor policies. So here's a quick list of adjustment factor schemes that you might be eligible for when applying to university in Queensland. The Educational Access Scheme. Year 12 subject adjustments and or adjustments for university study completed while you were still at school. Rural Access Scheme adjustments, other location-based adjustments, elite athlete and performer adjustments, school relationship adjustments, and other equity adjustments. So different universities have different rules. It's always good to check and see what are the policies of the universities that you're interested in. The maximum number of adjustments you can have applied to your rank or your ATAR varies between universities. In Queensland, UQ max out the adjustments at 5, so you can only have 5 adjustments to your ATAR or your rank total. Even if you're eligible for more, doesn't matter. They'll only accept 5. Griffith and University of Southern Queensland cap adjustments at 8. QT, James Cook Uni and University of Sunshine Coast cap their adjustments at 10, and ACU cap adjustments at 12. When I say 5, 8, 10 and 12, I'm talking about like full ranks, full rank points. So for example, if you got an 80 ATAR and you were eligible for 6 adjustments, you would have an 86 rank in the eyes of a certain university. So very cool. Can make a big difference. There are sometimes also limits on the number of adjustments you can get per category. So for example, in the Educational Access Scheme, you can get 6 adjustments per category maximum and 10 adjustments from the whole Educational Access Scheme maximum. And then the maximum number of adjustments to your rank for a specific university will be determined by their caps as well. So you might be eligible for 10 adjustments through EAS, but if you're applying to UQ, they will only accept 5. Some university degrees are excluded from adjustments altogether. So, for example, most medicine and dentistry courses won't accept adjustments. They'll use your original ATAR or rank. And then some programs don't accept certain kinds of adjustments. So, for example, Griffith's Bachelor of Physiotherapy won't accept adjustments for elite athletes. So, basically, it's always really important to read the fine print so that you know how different adjustments might affect you. Now, let's talk about each adjustment scheme in a bit more depth. So, the Educational Access Scheme is run through QTAC, and it's called EAS for short. EAS is for anyone who's experienced disadvantage that has negatively impacted their most recent study. So that might be high school, or it might be something else. Don't think that EAS is just for high school students. EAS has 5 categories. Those 5 categories are financial hardship, home environment and responsibilities, English language difficulty, school environment, and personal illness or disability. And it's good to know that mental health issues fall under the personal illness or disability category. So if you've had some mental health trouble, you can definitely look at EAS and consider applying for that. COVID lockdowns aren't usually accepted for EAS unless you are more disadvantaged than your peers. So if you have questions about that, call QTAC and they'll be able to explain in a bit more detail how that works. If you want to apply for EAS, you can tick a box when you fill out your QTAC application for the first time. If you've already submitted your application and you realize now that maybe you are eligible for EAS, you can still apply. You just have to give QTAC a call. They'll add EAS to your QTAC application, and then you'll be able to submit supporting documentation under the outstanding documents section of QTAC. Yeah, so maybe after watching this video you think, oh, actually maybe that is something I could apply for. Just give QTAC a call. They'll talk you through it. It's not too difficult. For each category of EAS, there's a form that you need to fill out. It's called a cover sheet, and if you go to the QTAC EAS page on the QTAC website, you can find all of the cover sheets on there. I'll put a link in the description. In the cover sheet, you usually fill out at least 1 page, and then your school or study provider fills out at least 1 page. Depending on the kind of category you're applying for, you might find that somebody else has to fill out something as well. For example, in the personal illness or disability category, you have to have a health professional fill out a page. Under the financial hardship category, you have to provide some documentation that demonstrates your financial hardship. After you've submitted your QTAC application, like I said, you'll be able to submit documentation. Usually you get an email with a link to the right part of your QTAC application. Otherwise, just go to the outstanding documents section and there'll be a place where you can upload supporting documents. Usually you need to have your EAS documents in by early December, usually sort of 9th or 10th of December. Check the key dates page of QTAC. But it does depend on what kind of offer round you're applying for. And if you ever have any questions, give QTAC a call because they will be more than happy to help you. So subject adjustments are adjustments you can receive for doing certain kinds of subjects in Year 12. This type of adjustment is usually only available for current Year 12 students. So if you want to take a gap year, but you think you want to apply for uni in the year following that, you might actually think about applying for university in your Year 12 year and deferring an offer. Because if you apply during Year 12, you get subject adjustments if you're eligible, but those adjustments wouldn't apply if you waited a year and applied after your gap year. You have to double check that the kinds of courses you're looking at allow for deferral. If they don't, then you might just have to wait and apply using your rank and any adjustments that any other adjustments that you might be eligible for. But subject adjustments pretty much only apply the year that you graduate. Different unis award adjustments for different subjects. So for most universities, you would get 2 adjustments for passing specialist maths in Unit 3 and 4. And the same applies for passing a language in Unit 3 and 4. Some other universities have a longer list of subjects they give adjustments for. JCU, QUT, Griffith all adjust for more subjects than just specialist maths or a language. And it's usually just an adjustment if you pass in your Year 12 year. Other universities have adjustments based on how well you did in a subject in Year 12, and they sometimes will assign certain sorts of subjects to certain sorts of degrees, it sounds a little bit complicated, but basically ACU is the main university who do this. I'll put a link in the description. They have a list of all of their degrees and then a list of the subjects that you could study in Year 12 that might give you adjustments if you applied for that specific degree, and then the number of adjustments you might get depending on whether you got an A or a B. They don't give adjustments if you have just got a C. Yeah, but they're the probably more unusual one. Most other universities have the same kind of policy. If you pass in Year 12, you can get some adjustments. Some degrees are excluded from subject adjustments. For example, most medicine and dentistry courses don't accept any adjustments at all. UQ is the exception, and actually they will accept subject adjustments for current Year 12 students applying for university in that year. There's usually a cap on the number of adjustments you can get. At Griffith, for example, they max out the adjustments for subjects at 6. At UQ, it's 4. You don't have to do anything to apply for subject adjustments. If you're a current Year 12 student, QTAC will check your Year 12 subjects and apply any adjustments that you're eligible for when they're assessing your application for each university course. Similar to Year 12 subject adjustments, if you've completed a university level subject at school, then you might get 1 to 2 adjustments for that. Double check with the universities you're interested in. There's usually a cap on how many adjustments you can get. So if you did 2 university subjects at school, some unis will adjust for both. Other unis will just give adjustments for 1. If you've got questions about how that works, give QTAC a call. So the Rural Access Scheme is for students who live in an RA2 to RA5 area for at least 5 years in a row or 10 years cumulatively before they've applied to university. So you can figure out if your address is eligible using a link in the description. It's called the Health Workforce Locator, and I'll put some info about what you need to tick to do an address search. Basically, you can check if you live in the city, then probably you're living in an RA1 area and you won't be eligible for rural adjustments. But if you live outside of the major cities, then you might be eligible. Most people who live in places like Toowoomba, they're eligible for rural adjustments. But if you live in Brisbane, you're probably not going to be eligible. The exception might be if you're attending a boarding school. If you attend a boarding school and your home address is in a rural area, and that rural address has been your address for at least 5 years in a row or 10 years cumulatively, then you would be eligible as well. Some universities only apply Rural Access Scheme adjustments to specific programs like medicine or dentistry. Other universities apply them for all courses. I'll put a link to the Rural Access Scheme in the description so you can click through and read a bit more about how this works, because each university is a bit different. But if you come from a rural area, it's definitely worthwhile considering this scheme. Usually you have to complete a form to prove that your address has been in a rural area for a certain amount of time. It's not that complicated. And if you have any questions, QTAC, again, are going to be there to help you out. Elite athlete adjustments are for people who have represented their sport or their art at some universities at a state, national, or international level. So if that's you, you might want to do an elite athlete adjustment application. Not all universities give adjustments for elite athletes. For example, UQ don't. But at the universities who do, it can make you more competitive for courses that you're interested in. If you'd like to apply for elite athlete adjustments, usually you need to tick that you're an elite athlete as a part of your QTAC application. And then you also apply directly to each university that you're interested in. When you apply directly to the unis, you're usually giving them some documentation about your sporting achievements. Usually you need a letter with like your professional sporting association letterhead and your coach's information and a bunch of info about what you've been doing in the last couple of years. Like what kinds of representation have you done, the different competitions you've been in, where you've been, all that sort of stuff. For more info, you can check out each university's website because they'll explain it in more depth. The other nice thing to know is when you're doing this application for adjustments, you might also be able to apply for things like support while you're at university if you're going to continue to represent your sport at a high level. And you might also be able to apply for scholarships at the same time as well, which is good. Some universities have relationships with specific schools, and they offer adjustments to students from these schools. For example, ACU offer adjustments to students from most Catholic schools in Queensland. So I'll put a link in the description so you can check and see if that applies for you. There are also other location-based adjustment schemes. So, for example, Griffith offer 2 adjustments for students who live in southeast Queensland who'd like to study at Nathan, Southbank or Mount Gravatt campuses of Griffith. Link in the description. Some unis offer adjustments to schools that are close to them. So for example, ACU have something called a campus program. If your school is really close to an ACU campus, you might get adjustments to go to ACU if you'd like to. Okay, so obviously always be trying your best so that you can get your best possible rank. But it's also nice to know that these other adjustment schemes exist, and adjustments might make you more competitive for a course that you'd really like to get into. If you have questions, please give QTAC a call. They're super friendly and helpful, and they know so much about all of this sort of stuff because they do it all the time. If you wanted some more specific advice for your situation, maybe consider talking to a careers counsellor. If you liked this video, you might want to hit like. If you want to get notified about other similar kinds of videos in the future, consider subscribing and hitting the bell. All right, have a lovely